Hello Soundies, welcome to our Sound for Video session. Today's the 31st of January 2021, last day of January. I'm pretty excited about that. Just warmer from here. We are going to cover a number of things today. So what we'll do is let me just get our agenda set up. Let's go over to our agenda here real quick and take a look at what we've got going for today. First of all, we're going to take a listen to the TZ Audio Stellar X3. It's a large diaphragm condenser microphone. It's on pre-order until tomorrow, I guess. It's going to start shipping tomorrow. TZ Audio was kind enough to send that over to me, and we'll be doing a full review, but this will just be kind of a preview here where we'll put my voice through it at least and get a sense for how it sounds so far. One thing that came up last night, we did a little sort of, we did a sort of a, we call them checkity checks. They are basically sound checks and tech checks. And one question that came up last night from Andres was, how do I split Poly Wav files using the application called Wave Agent from Sound Devices? And we were not able to get the app installed last night, but Lloyd and Jason actually both sent over a link to a little tech note where you could, they kind of walk you through how to get it installed on macOS Catalina. So I got it installed and we can actually show that. So we'll show that today. We then have a question and answer session. We have a bunch of questions that were submitted ahead of time, and then we will wrap up with a giveaway. We have 3 different items we're giving away. Why don't we cut to the main cam here? First one is a Rode VideoMic Pro Plus, which is a camera top shotgun microphone, and it has some interesting features. We'll talk about that a little later. We have a Voice Technologies VT Duplex, which is a headset mic, one that kind of sits on your ears and has a little boom mic that comes out on your cheek. And then we also have an Earthworks Icon Pro. So that is a condenser microphone that Earthworks has made specifically for live streaming, podcasting, gaming, and broadcasting. Not only just those things, but they say professional gaming, podcasting, live streaming, and broadcasting. In any case, it's sort of the little brother to what we're using here today, the Earthworks SR314. So that'll be the kind of the grand prize there, if you will. All right, let's jump into our sample. Let's get the microphone here and show you what this sounds like. So I'm going to bring this down here. It is a large diaphragm condenser microphone. Let me just pull the foam off here so you can see that. I have it on kind of this funky arm here, which is not the perfect setup, but we'll use this to show. In terms of features, why don't we cut over to the Mac, and I want to just show you a couple things. Actually, let me turn it on. Let's listen to it while I'm talking about this stuff. So there are a couple things to keep in mind. First of all, I'm processing the audio that you're hearing right now through the Earthworks. So it's going to sound a bit different. Let me just, I'm going to go ahead and bring this mic up, and it'll take a couple seconds for your ears to adjust because it's not processing. There's no compression, no EQ, no nothing. So here we go. Okay, we are now on the TechZone Audio Stellar X3, which is what you're hearing right here. So that probably sounds quite a bit different. Actually, it does look like we do have some, I think we have a compressor turned on. Let's turn our compressor off for now. Our EQ is off. Our noise gate is off. We do have a little bit of a high pass filter on, but that's all we've got going. So, all right. So let's go over to the Mac and let me just kind of run through some things here really quickly. So this is their website here. Again, as I mentioned before, looks like it begins shipping on the 1st, which is tomorrow. So for those that have been around for a while, we did review the Stellar X2 and the X2 Vintage, and they're pretty good microphones. They're very, I think, one of those microphones that fall into the category of great value for what you pay. So the Stellar X2, I believe, was $199 US, and the Vintage was $249. This one comes in at $349. So in terms of what's changed, they say basically it aims to improve all aspects of its predecessor. Improved custom circuit, more carefully tuned capsule, new body design, more reliable shock mount. I will say that the shock mount definitely is bigger. If we cut over to our main cam here, let me just kind of show this to you real quick. Okay. It's a pretty big, substantial shock mount. It's very similar from what I've seen, for example, to the Neumann U87. So it's large. If you want something small, this is not it. Small and unobtrusive. not it, but it does seem to do, I think, a pretty good job. I guess we could test that a little bit here. Let me just bump the, see, this boom arm is driving me crazy. Give me just a second, I'm gonna tighten this up here. Okay, let's see if that can hold itself. It's slowly sinking, isn't it? Okay, here's just some taps on the, oh, it's definitely picking that up, isn't it? Okay, it's a large diaphragm condenser microphone. They're sensitive. It's going to happen. All right, let's go back over to the website here. All right, so they're using a K67 style capsule. So for those not familiar, I think the idea with that is that it kind of mimics the style of capsule that was used on the Neumann U67, and very common in large diaphragm condenser microphones. Here they've kind of, it's a little bit different than some. This is 3 microns thick for the Mylar, as opposed to the traditional 6 microns. And they're saying that improves the signal to noise ratio. They also do a gold sputtering process. So for those not familiar, they typically sputter gold on the capsule itself. And the idea, that has something to do with its ability to generate the signal with the backplate. So anyway, they say that they are able to distribute it quite evenly. They've optimized the electronic circuitry, so new transformerless JFET circuit, complements the K67 capsule, adding warmth and detail in just right areas, which is interesting because if you come down and take a look at the frequency response chart here, it's supposed to be pretty even. Now here's the high pass filter turned on, the light blue line that kind of sweeps down like this. It looks pretty aggressive. And in fact, let me give me just a second here. I'm going to mute for just a second while I pull the foamy off, and let's go back to the main camera here. And I'm going to engage the high pass filter. Give me 1 second. Okay, the high pass filter is now on. Can you hear a difference there, Emma? So you're not sure? All right, checking 1, 2, 3. Let's go ahead and turn it back off. Okay, that's with the high pass filter turned off. And they actually refer to it in some of the marketing material. They refer to it as a proximity filter. So if you are working up really close on the mic, I think it's going to be something that will help a bit in those circumstances. Right now, I'm probably, 5 inches from the mic, 4 or 5 inches. Okay, somewhere in there. All right. In terms of its overall off-axis coloration, they seem to say, or they suggest that this actually does a little bit better. And the reason that's important is that when you have sound that is kind of maybe reflecting off of walls or coming anywhere from off-axis, you generally want it to just sound quieter, not colored. And here on the polar pattern graph, you can see here what it's doing. So they show different frequencies at in different colors. So the 125 to 250 hertz, you can see as this dark blue line here. So it's not perfectly cardioid at that. It's once you get up to about, between 500 and 1,000 hertz, it becomes much more kind of traditionally cardioid, where it has a null at the back, where it rejects basically all the sound from the back. Once you get up to the, 2,000 to 8,000 hertz, you're picking up a bit more from the back. And then when you get to 16 kilohertz, you have something that looks a little bit more like a supercardioid polar pattern with a tail at the back right here. You can see. So we'll see how that works out in practical terms when we do the full review. That'll be what we're going to be working on this week. So we should have that posted up next Sunday if everything goes as expected. It does come with a little flight case and the foam cover. Again, here they call it a proximity filter they call it a proximity filter there and a high pass filter here. Generally the same idea. We have a 10 dB pad, so if you do if you're recording something really loud, like an amp cabinet or something like that, you can engage that minus 10 dB pad. So there's a look at the Stellar X3. So I'm curious, for the full review, if any of you have any specific questions or curiosities about this that you want to make sure that we answer or address, we'll try to address whatever those are. So if you have something, go ahead and leave that in the chat and we'll see what we can do to take care of that. Let me see. In terms of, let's just go over the tech specs a little bit here really quickly. kind of pretty general things that you normally see here. So we've got basically that's a 1-inch K67 style capsule, frequency range 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, cardioid polar pattern they're calling it, sensitivity minus 31 dB, output impedance 110 ohms, max SPL once you get to 0.5% total harmonic distortion is 135 dB, signal noise ratio 87, self-noise less than 8 dB A-weighted. So those are pretty standard for what you'd see in large diaphragm condenser microphones at this price range. So nothing out of the ordinary there. Looks pretty standard. All right. You can see also, obviously, it's the reviews have been done mainly by recording magazines. So if you come down to the bottom here, I think they had. Oh, maybe it wasn't on this page. They had a demo here by a musician, so he's using it as a vocal mic. They also did their own, they call it an in-depth review, really kind of a presentation of the microphone. They'll do they've done some of the things that I'll probably do in mine as well, but I'll put a different set of voices through it. So anyway, there are some things there. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and hit us in the chat with that, and we'll take a look at those. I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to my main microphone now. Okay, back on the earthworks. So does that sound quite a bit different? Yes? Okay. All right. Let's go take a look at our agenda and see what is next. Next up, we have split polywave files with wave agent. Let me get that pulled up here and see what we've got going for today. Okay. We're going to minimize that. Okay, let's cut over to our Mac here. I'm going to go ahead. This is hard to see. This UI is not optimized for huge things like this, but let me just see if I've got a file we can use here. Okay, it's really hard to see, and I don't know if there's a way to make this bigger in this particular app. No, it's pretty straightforward, simple app. Sadly, it doesn't look like Sound Devices is updating this anymore, but let me just run through a couple things here. So you can see on this file here, we have a couple of different channels here. We have our boom mic and a lavalier mic. And the question that Andre, the question that Andre was asking last night is how do you split those up? He was having some trouble getting it to work. So here I would come to the split combine button, just click that. And then what I would do is click on the split poly tab right there. What I can do here is choose which files go where, and I can just go ahead and clear all of this. But what I want to do is I want to save track number 1 to file 1 and track number 2 to file 2. It's pretty much that simple. I go ahead and give it a name or a destination here, and I can choose process, and it's done. Now when I open that folder, let's just go there. Here are the two audio tracks right there. So they're going to be split up into two separate files, and that's what you have going there. So that's pretty straightforward. Also, for those that are working on a Mac, I don't know whether this works on Big Sur, latest version of OS, Mac OS, but I believe you can get it working on Catalina, which is what we're running here. And I have a link down in the description below. Lloyd and Jason both actually sent that over to me. It's a tech notes over at the Sound Devices website. It talks you through the process of getting it installed on Catalina. So this is, as Lloyd put it, this is an app that seems to be holding on by its fingernails. Sadly, I wish that they would update it a little bit more. So anyway, there's a look at how you do that. So hopefully, Andre, that gets you headed in the right direction.
The computer audio channel is live, by the way.
Oh, did we get some audio?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Nice little delete sound.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. That's one of the downsides. So I guess I should say, one thing I didn't say earlier, we're running with some new hardware today. So instead of using a laptop to control the switcher like Emma has done for the last couple months, we actually have a control panel now. And we're kind of adapting to that still. So thanks for your patience with us as we kind of get that smoothed and sorted out. All right, let's jump over to our question and answer. I'm going to take a drink of water. I've been advised that I need to do that more often.
Yeah. Everybody in the chat at home, please drink water.
All right, time for a sip break. Your beverage of choice. All right. First up from Jimmy. I have a Mixpre 6.2 and just that on hand for now. My client asked me to output to 3 cameras. All I can think of is to use a 3.5 millimeter splitter cable into another 3.5 millimeter splitter cable to make the 3 outputs. Will that work? Can the Mixpre 6's output, is it capable to the power draw of 3 outputs? Probably. I've never done that. One of the things I did, this was actually a question that was sent in pretty early in the week from Jimmy, so I actually corresponded with him. What we ended up on is, excuse me, where we ended up is that he actually has some additional wireless systems available to him, and so he's just going to use wireless to transmit to each of the 3 cameras. So that's just a matter of setting up a single transmitter at the Mixpre from the output, and then setting the receivers all to the same frequency on the cameras, and that'll take the audio over to the cameras. Running all those cables between 3 cameras sounds like a nightmare to me. I would avoid that if you can, because remember, these are unbalanced connections coming from a Mixpre 6. So probably best to avoid that if you can. This may be a case where wireless may be a better choice, probably. So, okay, thanks for that, Jimmy. Jimmy also had a question. Maybe this was Jimmy. Maybe I didn't type it in right. But there's also a question here about the limiters on the Mixpre. So let's go over to the Mixpre and take a look at that real quick. All right, so we're going to come back to the Zoom F6 a little later, but in the Mixpre 2 series, and I think it's just the Mixpre 2 series. I don't think the originals had this ability as well, but correct me if I'm wrong in the chat there. We're going to come into our menu, go into the System menu, and then under System, we have limiters right here. I'm going to go ahead and open that. Now, you have to be in 24-bit or 16-bit mode to see any of this, or to adjust this and for it to make any difference. 32-bit mode does not have limiters. So by default, the limiters are set to factory default mode. Now, you can, in the newer versions, actually change that and go to custom settings. So we'll do that. And then here are the settings that Jimmy was asking about. So you have a ratio, a release time, and a threshold. Now, with a limiter, typically for dialogue or spoken word, I don't see a whole lot of need to change this. I would just go with the factory settings. I think that this can be useful when you're recording instruments or you want to kind of tune the sound a little bit more for instruments. But you can set 3 things: the ratio, the release time, and the threshold. All right, so ratio, remember, is how much compression is going to occur once the audio exceeds the threshold. So any audio that gets over the threshold is either going to be compressed to an infinity to 1, or in other words, it's going to be a brick wall. No audio is going to make it very far past that threshold. A 10-to-1 ratio, so every 10 dB that goes past the threshold will be squashed down to 1 dB, or a 20-to-1 threshold or ratio, such that any 20 dB that goes over the threshold will be essentially compressed down to 1 dB. So that's the way I think of that. Now the release you can adjust, it looks like up to a second or 1000 milliseconds. And then the lowest setting is 50 milliseconds. So this is really, I guess I need to know, Jimmy, are you talking about recording instruments? And if so, I guess I need to understand what you're trying to accomplish. So I would, again, for spoken word dialogue, I'd generally just keep it at the factory defaults, unless you have some reason to. You can change the threshold anywhere between -2 dB and -12 dB. So this is the point at which the limiter, or the limiter, I was going to say, or compressor, it really is a limiter. This is the point at which it starts to engage. And the attack is actually fixed, and I assume it's a very fast attack. And then you can adjust the release on the back end. So once it goes back down below the threshold, that's how long it takes before the limiter completely disengages. All right. So I think in short, what I would say is, unless you have a specific thing you're trying to record, most likely with some sort of, if you're doing some sort of music, some sort of instrument, and you want to adjust the sound of the limiter a little bit, kind of tune its sound a little bit, I would probably just stick with the factory default settings. So, but definitely, by all means, experiment. And if you want to kind of tune that to your taste, It never hurts to get in there and experiment with it. Just don't do it in the middle of a job. Do it beforehand and see what you can do. And also, another piece of advice, I don't know how you guys have found it, but if you're going to do it with your own voice, record it and then listen back to it. It's really hard to tell what's happening listening while you're also speaking at the same time. So hopefully that'll help you a little bit there. Okay, let's jump back over to our questions here. Next up from Bill, we have a question. I have the Sennheiser XSWD portable lavalier set wireless kit, which comes with the ME2 lav. Though I bought it for use on sets, I also do some voiceover into my computer via an M-Audio M-Track 2x2 interface with an XLR input using a 1/8 to XLR adapter. But the wireless isn't needed here, and I'd like to go wired from the ME2 into the M-Audio's XLR input. My problem is that the ME2 lav has a locking 1/8 male connector, and I can't find a female 1/8 locking to XLR male adapter. I tried my non-locking adapter, but it doesn't seem to get seated correctly and doesn't work. Any ideas, or am I missing something? There are a couple of things to consider here, Bill. One thing is, first of all, converting the power. So when you're using a lavalier microphone, typically those require plug-in power, which is a 3 to 5 volts, whereas, of course, your M-Track audio interface is going to supply 48 volts phantom power. That can actually damage the microphone if you don't have some sort of converter in there. So that's one thing to consider. And then as far as threaded connectors, there are a couple. So I put some links down below. I believe Remote Audio has one. And there was another one I put from DPA. Anyway, their links are in the description, so you can go check those. Also, if you're not committed to the threads, Rode also makes the VXLR Plus that does the power conversion and the 3.5 millimeter or 1/8 to XLR adapting. So those are the 3 options that I know of that you might check out. So really important to make sure that you do that power conversion as well, or you will damage that microphone. So good luck there, Bill, and happy recording. All right, next up from Jeff. When syncing externally recorded audio with a clap, and the video file from, say, a DSLR also has scratch audio that has the clap, both recorded 23.98 frames per second, 48 kilohertz, 24-bit. I can match the good audio spike to the contact point or the slate or hands, but I have found on many occasions that the 2 spikes on the waveforms do not match precisely along the vertical axis in the timeline. I think probably, Jeff, you meant horizontal axis. If I drag one a single frame to the left or right, it's either slightly before or slightly behind the other spike. It's not a big deal as I sync to the visual slate or via timecode nowadays, but why is there this anomaly? It's like in order to get the spikes to line up, it's sitting in the half frame between. Have you ever experienced this? And he's talking specifically in regards to Premiere Pro. Yes, I've definitely seen that before. I believe it is tying it to frames, and what's not entirely clear to me, and it depends on the video editing app that you're talking about. Some of them give you more freedom. And certainly the interesting thing is that digital audio workstations allow you to, a lot of them allow you to move by a single sample. So I don't understand exactly why the video editing apps do it that way, but whoops, I'm getting us off track there. There we go. I have definitely noticed it in Premiere. It's not generally a problem, as you say, not only from the fact that you're using timecode, but visually being off by half a frame generally doesn't become a problem from a audience standpoint. It doesn't appear out of sync. And in fact, I think it was Greg Palmer, or maybe it was Alan Cavedo. One of the two of them actually did some test shots where they intentionally put things out of sync by different number of frames just to see how what the experience was from an audience point of view. And they found that generally you had to be off by at least 2 to 3 frames. And it differed if it was early or late as well. So this is generally not going to be a problem, but yeah, it's usually a limitation of the software, the video editing software. For whatever reason, that's the way they've done it. It seems like Final Cut's a little bit more forgiving that way, but Premiere always seemed to kind of lock it. And it's almost like wherever the audio file starts, that becomes a lock point, and then you can only move a full frame from there. So yeah, I've seen the same thing, Jeff, so understand what you're talking about, and I don't know any better answer than that. Just looks like what the software engineers did. All right, next up from Andrew. We're getting kind of small here, so I might summarize a little bit of this here. Today I'm recording sound separate from the GH5 with the MixPre 3.2 and the SM7B, but thinking about using the MixPre into the GH5 for live streams in the future. Today I tried running the audio out of the MixPre into the GH5 for the first time via 3.5mm cable. The GH5 preamp set to minimum, minus 12 dB. Signal was good, but maybe a little hot in the MixPre, hitting the limiters occasionally. However, the signal on the GH5 was way hot, peaking at almost 100%. I had to turn the MixPre preamp way down to feed appropriate levels to the camera. So let me just stop there. And yes, so Andrew, you're on the right track, but there's one step you've missed, and that is you need to adjust the output fader on the MixPre. And what you can do is send tone from the MixPre at minus 20 dB. This is all going to sound complicated, but it's actually fairly simple. And also there's a segment specifically in the course that covers how to do this. So definitely go back and take a look at that. But you need to adjust the output fader on the MixPre down. You don't want to adjust your gain on the input channel down. You want to adjust the output fader down. The reason for this is that the GH5 has a microphone level input, and the MixPre is capable of putting out a signal at line level, or you can attenuate it using the output fader, bring it down to microphone level so it's at a reasonable level for the camera. So all you need to do is adjust it to get it down, get that fader down so that it's closer to microphone level, which is what the GH5 is expecting. The course segment covers that explicitly, shows you exactly how to walk through it, but I can actually go to the overhead camera here and show you. If we go into our menu here, and what you'll do is you'll come to the tone slate menu. Here you can see our tone levels at minus 20 dB, and actually for the GH5 I would probably bump this up to minus 12 just because it's easier to see that on the meters on the GH5, and then you would turn tone on. You'll notice now when I come back out to the main screen here, it's sending the mix out at minus 12 dB. So what you'll do is you'll go to your GH5, make sure you're at minus 12 dB, the lowest setting on the GH5, and then you can come in here to your outputs. And here you have your left output. Oops, not there. We're going to go to our gain, left and right gain, and then we can pull this down. And you're going to adjust this down until the GH5 meters show the tone that's coming through also at minus 12 on its meters. Once you've got that level, and it's probably going to be somewhere around minus 30, minus 35, somewhere in there. Once you've got that, then you're all set. Then you've got the levels calibrated between the two. You can come back in here, turn off the tone, and you are good to go. So go ahead and you've got the course, and there's a segment specifically on that, but that's the general high-level overview of how to do that. And then Andrew also says, I've been tossing up another Panasonic camera body to get for event work. I was leaning towards a second GH5, but now I'm wondering if the line-in audio on the GH5S might be helpful in this situation. Yes, it would be helpful. What would be more difficult in that situation, though, coming from a person who owns a GH5 and a GH5S, the colors don't match very well between those two. So you'll have to do some post work to get them to match if you were hoping to cut between them. So I would probably, with the information you have, it might, I don't know, it's up to you, of course. But a GH5 would be easier to match in terms of color. And now that you know how to get audio out of your MixPre into a GH5, I don't know that line-in feature is absolutely critical. So anyway, there's some thoughts there on that. All right, next from Joe. This is not so much a question. I'm actually just going to summarize this. I'll leave it up on the screen if you want to pause and read through it. But Joe recently bought an audio interface. He had been doing his video editing and audio editing, it looks like directly on his laptop. Just plug some headphones into the laptop or pull the headphone jack out and put his monitors plugged into that. And buying an audio interface has been an eye-opening experience for Joe. So he's all excited now because he can actually leave both of them plugged in at the same time through the audio interface, which is really helpful. And he says that the audio quality he's getting into the very same monitors and the very same headphones is substantially better. So for any of you that were holding out, wondering if it would make a difference, it really depends on the laptop that you have, I think, and whether you need to have the flexibility of just leaving things plugged in all the time. That is to say, being able to plug in a single USB and then having your monitors and headphones plugged into the USB audio interface all the time. There's some definite advantage there. So he was pretty excited about that and wanted to share that with everybody. So thanks for that, Joe. All right, and then one last question here. No, two more questions. Maybe you could show how to make the Zoom F6 works as both an audio interface and recorder at the same time. I believe there was some kind of loopback mode, but I was not able to figure this out. Okay, let's bring our Zoom F6 up over here. Get that powered up. Emma, is that in focus?
No.
It is not. Okay, give me just a second here. Here are the joys of using a camera that's not very good at autofocus.
There it is.
Now it's in focus. Okay. So, Anton, the short answer to your question is I'm going to go into the menu, down to System, down to USB, and here is this AIF with rec. That refers to using this as an audio interface and at the same time recording on the Zoom F6. So I would just go into this and turn it on, and then you're good to go. It'll take it a second to adjust. You pop back out. You are now in this mode where you can record to the F6 at the same time that you are sending audio to your computer or iPad via USB. So that's a simple way to do it. The loopback feature is a completely different thing, but that's how you do that. One note, you cannot do this in 32-bit float mode. You have to be in 24-bit mode, just so you're aware, or 16-bit. And I think that's the main limitation there. So yeah, I think that's everything. So if I didn't cover everything you were looking for, Anton, let us know and we'll jump back in there with more detail. All right, next up from Jean-Francois. Did I say that right, Emma?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Emma is our resident French speaker, sort of.
Sort of.
All right, as a prosumer in the space, I still find a lot of your content relevant and very helpful, and I can say that your training video on audio for the A10 Mini turned out to be one of the best training investments since we all had to start working in the virtual world. My typical application workflow is simply hosting Zoom meetings and Zoom webinars with a personal interest to see how far we can push the production quality as a user one-man band. My question today is mic placement. I'm using a Zoom ZDM1 microphone connected to a Sony NX80 via XLR, then onto an A10 via HDMI for the live Zoom webinars. The microphone is usually out of the frame at about 12 inches. Participant tells me it is often too quiet, but when increasing gain, I notice clipping. Should I move the microphone closer or consider a boom microphone? Good question. So 12 inches is quite a distance for a dynamic microphone for just regular talking. So I would probably move that closer first and just see what that does for you. And the Zoom ZDM1, it's a dynamic microphone. I'd probably be within 4 inches if you can. You can position it so that it's not too intrusive. I know a lot of people don't like it to have it in the frame. Obviously, you didn't want to have it in the frame ideally, but just as a test, I would move that in closer. The downside with using a boom mic, and the upside with using a boom mic for live streaming when you're sitting at a desk, large, flat, hard surface, and a computer, usually large, flat, hard surface, is that with a boom mic, it's going to sit a little farther away from you and you're going to start to pick up some of the reflections a little bit. That can be fine if that's a sacrifice you're willing to make for not having the microphone in the frame. And a lot of people do that. Perfectly legitimate approach. It's going to sound a little more roomy generally. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, that's an option. Or again, as I said, I would probably move that ZDM1 a little closer, get it within about 4 inches if you can, and just try that and see how things work out for you there. The Sony NX80, I would assume, doesn't have the most amazing... Well, Sony does pretty decent on their cameras with the XLR inputs. I have never tested that particular camera, but the ZDM1 generally requires quite a bit of gain there. So, all right, I think that would do it. I think that'll going to do it for us. So that's all the questions for today. Thank you for submitting those. And good, we have some time here. We have a little bit of time, so this is good. Let's do some giveaways. We are going to give away the 3 items that we talked about earlier, and I want to actually do a couple things. You have to choose a number between 1 and 50. We're going to do the first one, and actually before we get started, you haven't started it yet, have you? Okay, don't start it yet. This one has a battery. What I have found with international shipments, we're in the United States here, international shipments with batteries take forever. And I shipped to my friend in Poland, I shipped a Wireless Go, which has inbuilt lithium-ion batteries or lithium polymer batteries. I shipped it to him a month ago. He still has not received it. So I think For the other two, we'll do international shipments. If you bid on this one and you need it shipped internationally, be prepared for a pretty long wait. We're just using U.S. Postal Service to do the shipping, so it can take a while to get there. Now, also, for these, you get the gear, no charge, if you're willing to pay the shipping. So if you'll cover the shipping, cool, go ahead and bid. If you don't want to pay the shipping, and if you don't really want the gear, don't bid on it. Be a minimalist. There's no need to have gear that you're not going to use. Okay, couple things about the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus. It has a replaceable cable, 3.5 millimeter cable, which was a step up from the previous version, which is nice. It also has an interesting battery system here. It comes with this lithium-ion battery pack, but you can also power it with AA battery. So if you run that out, and that should last about, I think it was 35 hours or maybe it was 50 hours, I can't remember. Should last all day, but for whatever reason, if you run out, you can run it with AA batteries. It does have a, it's got a dual stage high pass filter at 75 hertz and 150 hertz. It's got a plus 20 gain or a minus 10 gain setting in addition to the just kind of standard. It also has a safety track recording feature, so you can record at your set gain level out the left channel and at a minus 12 dB, I think, out of the right channel. So if you do clip, you got that backup for you. Pretty good mic. This also has what in my test seemed to be a more focused polar pattern on the front versus the original VideoMic Pros. So let's do some bidding on that. I'm going to go ahead and choose a random number between 1 and 50. And Emma's going to send out a chat message here. As soon as you see that, go ahead and put your number in if you want to bid on that. And we'll close that in just a second here and figure out who we're going to ship this to. Let's get this to a new home where you're going to use it. And these, by the way, are useful tools. I also have the Deity D3 Pro and the Rode VideoMic NTG. So I do put them to use from time to time. All right, bidding's open? Okay, bidding's open. Why do you have a smirk on your face?
Because people don't listen.
Oh.
It's okay.
Uh-oh, some people weren't listening.
There's a chat in the chat that says road numbers start here. Your number must be below that message.
Okay, so she's going to just look. So if you put it in the chat before she put her item in the chat, then you'll want to send it again.
Yes.
Okay.
If you put it before, you can send it again. Just
yeah.
Within the thing where it says, here are the numbers.
Yeah, okay, we should have brought you a microphone this week. We didn't bring a microphone out for you this week.
I'm just yelling into that one.
Yeah, don't yell. Okay, bidding is underway. All right. Okay.
Cut.
The bidding has stopped. Emma's going to find our number. So we can cut to the Mac here real quick and show that our random number, can we make this bigger, was 39. Okay, so I'm just going to take a look and see if we have a 39 or something really close to 39 in here.
We have a 40.
We have a 40, okay. Taking a look through things here.
We have a 38, but 40's closer.
Is it? They're both 1.
38.
38, 39. 39, 40. Do we have a 39?
No, we have a 38 and a 40.
Okay, so we have 2 that need to bid off.
Yes.
All right, so let's cut back off of the Mac because I need to choose a new random number. So if the 2 of you are still here, who are the 2 people?
Hold up. I gotta find them again.
Okay, we're going to find there are 2 of you that need to do a rebid here to see who gets it. Emma's got a lot going on right now. She is earning her money for sure right now.
Okay. It's in the chat.
Oh, can you bring that up on the screen? Okay, so bid off between Song and Shoji Productions starts here. 1 number each. We're between 1 and 50. If you each kind of drop a number in there, we've got a new number generated and we'll see who's closest. What's going on? What am I missing?
Trevor asked if you're really paying me.
Yes,
Yes.
I absolutely. So her college is getting paid for, first of all, but she also earns an hourly wage for all of the work that she does here. So yes, absolutely paying her.
Okay, what's the number?
Okay, cut over to the Mac. The number is 26, generated by random.org, which uses atmospheric noise to seed its random number generator. So 26.
What?
Yeah. That's another
Okay.
topic for another day, but
Shoji, it's yours.
Shoji, you are the winner of the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus. If you would please email me at curtis@learnlightandsound.com. We'll get the shipping details over to you and get that on its way. So congratulations. All right. Thank you, Emma. Good job working under pressure like that. All right. Next up, we have the Voice Technologies VT Duplex kit. And in this particular kit, so you've got a kind of a semi-hard case here, which is nice to protect the microphone. You just pop this open here. It looks like it has that waterproof kind of cover here on the zipper too, so it's a pretty nice little case. This is a kind of flesh-colored headset microphone. So here's the microphone right here. You have the ear hangers with kind of a nice pliable connection there. And then you have what is called a micro dot connector on the back there. This particular microphone comes with a 3.5 millimeter locking connector for Sennheiser wireless. And it should work with a lot of other things too that have TRS, but here's the micro dot connector on the other side. In addition to that, it comes with a second headset. This is the one that I have the microphone on right now is the large, extra large, and it also comes with a medium, small as well. So you have two different sizes. So it's going to be more for very small people or children. And you can adjust it, of course, size like that. So give Emma a raise. Did you?
No, I
Okay.
didn't do it. If you need proof that I get paid, I just bought a pair of roller skates last week.
Yeah, she just bought a pair of roller skates, so she's got some discretionary funds in addition to her college being fully paid for, partly by scholarships because she's smart and she's done well in school. So
Smart. I still do dumb things.
We all do dumb things sometimes, but anyway. All right, let's bid on the VT Duplex kit. I'm going to go ahead and generate a new random number here. Okay, number has been generated. Is the bidding open?
Yes.
The bidding is open. Okay. It's about a $330 microphone. And pretty good one. I'm going to take a sip of water while you guys are bidding.
Jason got inline skates earlier in the year. Very good.
From now on, you're getting a microphone whether you want it or not.
I'll take microphones.
Okay.
That's fine.
No, to talk into during the live stream.
Alan Moore is giving you a bribe.
Oh, it's a bribe. Very nice. Thank you, Alan. That'll go towards Emma's. Is it a sal? No, it's a wage towards her wage.
Oof. My tax deductible.
All right.
Yeehaw.
We're still bidding?
We're done.
We're done bidding. Okay. We can. Sorry, I'm going to get untangled here. Okay. Let's go over to the Mac here. And our random number was 12 this time. Going to take a look through the chat here, see who got closest to 12.
We have a 13.
Ooh, we have a 13.
Yeah.
Taking a close look.
Yes, 13. Who
13's our winner. We're going to put that up on the screen here.
Swiss Smith.
Swiss Smith.
Very
Okay.
good.
Very good. Number 13. If you want to go ahead and email me, curtis@learnlightandsound.com. We will make arrangements and get this out to you. All right. And now for the grand prize. This is, let me actually take this out of the box here. The Earthworks Icon Pro. This is an XLR output microphone. This is not the USB version, for those wondering. Comes in this nice box here. There's the microphone, and it has probably the best microphone stand adapter I have ever seen. It is the Triad Orbit M2R. This thing is rock solid. This thing is going to last your lifetime and whoever wins it to your grandchildren probably as well. Really nice, high quality. And the microphone is not only a great sounding microphone, it's also a looker. XLR output on the back there. Stainless steel, this thing is kind of heavy. It's making me tired just holding it. Not really. Okay, let's go ahead and generate a random number for this one. Okay, we have randomly chosen a number. Is the bidding open?
Yes.
Bidding is open, okay. For the Earthworks Icon Pro. I'm excited for whoever gets this. I'm excited for whoever gets all of them, but this one in particular it's a good one. If you work up nice and close. Earthworks, I've been pretty happy with Earthworks microphones. That's what we're talking through today. It's probably my favorite vocal mic for live streaming situations, the SR314. And then this little Icon Pro is pretty good as well. All right. You were asking about...
atmospheric noise.
Yeah, so here's... Random.org offers true random numbers to anyone on the internet. The randomness comes from atmospheric noise, which for many purposes is better than the pseudo-random number algorithms typically used in computer programs.
I read an interesting thing in one of my classes last semester about how randomness, like we often perceive randomness as not random.
Oh.
And we perceive non-randomness as random.
Yeah, we humans have a tendency to not be very honest with ourselves or be deceived pretty easily.
Very true.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right, we can cut over to the Mac to see what our number was. Looks like our number was 29 this time.
I think I saw a 29.
Oh, we think we saw an actual 29.
Oh.
Did we?
We did.
Oh, just one?
Well, there's the first one. Oh, there's two.
Oh, there are two.
Uh-oh.
Oh, dear. It's going to be a bit off.
Hang on, maybe there's three.
Maybe there are three.
No, just the two.
Just the two. Okay, so we're going to have to do a bit off. I am going to choose a new generate a new random number. Here's our semifinals, hopefully finals. I have a new random number. So Emma's going to go ahead and put an item in the chat. When she's done that, if the two of you would please go ahead and do another bid.
Yes, you were first,
number.
James. You got to do it again.
Between 1 and 50. So that's for James and Boulder Surfer. And then we'll choose our winner amongst those two, whoever's closest to this number. All right.
Cliffhanger.
This is an exciting one. Don't worry, people. We're going to have some more of these in the future as well, as promised. I think, so little background. So on my main channel, we do a lot of product reviews. A lot of the gear comes to me free of charge, and then I have, I work with it for a while, do the review. I've got plenty of gear here. I'm trying to lead a sane lifestyle where I have, some gear that I rely on and not have 10,000 microphones here. So I figure it makes sense to get some of this out to you guys that are out there. So here's our random number, 32.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's James.
It looks like James is our winner here at number 26. So James, if you would email, what was the other number from Boulder Surfer?
23.
Okay. All right. All right. If James, you want to email me, curtis@learnlightandsound.com. Just let me know you won the Icon Pro, and we'll make arrangements to get that shipped out to you. This one's a heavy one. Shipping will be a little bit more on this one. All right. Let's go to the chat and see if we have any questions that we need to answer for this week. We've got a few more minutes here. I'll take a drink while you're rolling through that. See if there's anything.
There's the reaction.
James, congratulations. Cheers. Sip of water to you.
Oh, we're hitting the chat limit. Aaron's code only goes so far back in the chat.
Oh, okay. So if you do have questions, if you would just kind of just send a new question through, even if you sent it before, at Curtis Judd Audio, we will do, we'll take care of that. Jean-Francois, how about fizzy water? Yeah, it's a good idea. Next time. I think we'll do fizzy water next time. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Deal. mineral water, as they call it in some places. In fact, funny story, first time I went to Australia, I asked for sparkling water, which is often what we call it here. And at the restaurants, like on the first day I got there, I'd flown over, overnight, so I'd been awake for 24 hours or something. I was kind of out of it. And I said, yeah, can I get some sparkling water? And they were like, what? And finally we settled on, oh, you call it mineral water here. Okay, yeah, mineral water, please. So we got that sorted out. All right. Are the questions rolling in?
No.
No questions? People?
Here's one.
Okay, we have one. Okay, here's one. Dorlis, have you ever considered something like a Stream Deck for productivity reasons? Yes, I have. I have one in my shopping cart. With what it makes sense. It's actually a really good piece of gear for a lot of situations, but we're using a hardware encoder, and so we're not running an encoder on the computer. If we were running an encoder on the computer, for example, if we were still using Ecamm Live, then I probably would have invested in a Stream Deck by now. So for those not familiar with the Stream Deck, actually I want to pull that up. So Elgato makes the Stream Deck, and there are two different models. Let me just pull this up here. We're going to cut over to our Mac here in just a second. Here we go. Yeah, go ahead and cut over to the Mac. So yeah, you can track me, I guess. All right. So Stream Deck, what it has is basically it's a series of buttons on a simple device, and they have two sizes. There's a smaller version and a larger version. Each of those buttons is configurable, and not only is it configurable, but it actually, you can use a different icon for each of them. So it's actually a little miniature screen behind each one. And what it allows you to do is you can use those, set those up as basically macro buttons, or if you want to think of it in those terms, or just a way to switch to something else. It's basically another type of hardware switcher. And it has integration with, I believe, OBS and also Ecamm Live, probably other applications as well. But it allows you to switch between things. So I think it's a great piece of gear. Everyone that I know of that's used it has been really happy with it. So really kind of a cool piece of equipment. Really great idea from Elgato. Thanks. I mean, Elgato has done so much for the streaming world. They work obviously mostly in the gaming world, but for all of us that are doing streaming in any form, have made some really great gear. In fact, we also have we're working on a Mac, but in terms of capture cards, we have what is it called? The Camlink 4K, and that worked really well as well. So in the cases, actually, when I do, and it's really just basically this USB dongle is really all it is. And so you plug in your HDMI source here into your computer, and then the computer sees it as basically as a webcam. So we were actually running the big 4K switcher into a Camlink on my computer when we were using Ecamm Live. So when I do the solo streams like this, we just use the hardware encoder. And then when I bring in a guest, we usually will use Ecamm Live or something else like it. In fact, I was on a stream earlier this week with the guys at Epiphan. So if you didn't see that, it's over on YouTube. If you look up Epiphan, Epiphan. I did a live stream with them. We talked a little bit about lighting and sound for live streams. They make live streaming gear. And in that case, actually, I used a Panasonic GH5 directly into a Camlink. And then we used an app called Rivet, which sends a secure, reliable transport stream from my computer over to their Pearl hardware encoder, which was kind of cool, kind of an interesting setup. And the quality came out really well. I was surprised. Well, not surprised, but pleased with how well it came out. So good. Okay. Any other questions? We do have some more. All right. I cannot post a link, but do a search on YouTube for this: sync audio and video in Premiere Pro, how to move audio tracks less than one frame. Oh, excellent, Robert. Thank you for that. So that'll be a good one for, let's see, who was it? Jeff, I think, was the one that left that question earlier on. Yeah, Jeff. Thank you for that, Robert. I'm not actually a Premiere editor anymore, so I haven't looked at it in a long time, but that's cool that you can actually move it less than one frame. So it looks like there may be a way to get those lined up after all. That is good news. Also, I did, just as a status update to follow up from last week, so I did cancel my Adobe Audition subscription for now. I may go back, I don't know. But what I did is I finished the first draft of the mix that I showed you last week, if you were here. And I was working in DaVinci Resolve 16, so the non-beta version. And I was getting approximately, I would say, an app crash every 20 minutes or so. So it really got nuts once I got past 20 tracks in the mix. So there's still some work to be done there. Hopefully number 17 is a little bit more reliable. But anyway. All right, Drew says, hi, Drew. Have you done any work with loopback? Not a lot. I assume you're referring to the app that runs on Mac. I think it's, what's the name of that software company? They make Audio Hijack as well. Rogue Amoeba. But they have, I believe you're referring to they have an app called Loopback as well. Let's cut over to the Mac here. So the idea here is to do routing within your computer. Let me just make this bigger here. There we go. All right, with the power of Loopback, it's easy to pass audio from one application to another. Loopback can combine audio from both application sources and audio input devices and make it available anywhere on your Mac. So that's a pretty cool thing. If you need to combine multiple things, you can do that. So it's pretty powerful thing. Audio Hijack. What I've never really entirely understood is the distinction between Loopback and Audio Hijack. So I haven't looked into it that much to answer your question, Drew. But I bought both of them in kind of a bundle, and they make some good software. Been happy with it. It doesn't work in every single case. What they had to do is essentially they've created a driver for Mac OS that allows them to get into the system and actually take the audio from one app to another, using their app, of course. But it doesn't work with all apps. So for example, I think I ran into some problems with Ecamm Live where I couldn't get the audio from Ecamm Live. I could get the audio going into Ecamm Live, but I couldn't get the audio coming out of Ecamm Live. And I think that has to do with the fact that it was an encoding app and it's not actually sending it to the audio subsystem within the Mac. On the way out, it's just sending it to an RMTP source or something like that. So anyway, yes, good software. Any other questions? Next one from regarding AutoMix from Mike. How effective in a conference system with different speakers at different podiums? I found it to be very, well, it depends on the AutoMix implementation. So, for example, on sound devices, there's Mix Assist. On the Zoom F series, you get the what they just call AutoMix. Mixer, which we're using here, is a little bit more configurable. You can actually apply high-pass filters and other things to kind of tune which frequencies it's listening to. But generally, Mike, my experience has been that at least the one I have the most experience with is Mix Assist on the sound devices, and that one does really well with that, actually. As long as you don't have the microphone sitting in front of the loudspeakers, it did pretty well. It was able to detect which of the people were talking pretty reliably and be able to attenuate the one that wasn't talking and leave the one that was talking open. And likewise, it did the switching back and forth quite nicely. So the Zoom F series AutoMix works pretty well as well. I also, when I reviewed the Zoom PodTrack P8 recently, they actually call it noise reduction. It's really kind of an AutoMix feature as well. And that worked pretty nicely. I haven't used that one specifically at like a multiple podiums, but I've had pretty good experience with those. So I'd say I'd give it a thumbs up. I'd give it a try, definitely. I'm curious if you've used it, Mike. Have you used any sort of AutoMix in those circumstances? But I think my experience, good. Okay. Next up from Danny, what's your audio chain today, specifically compression? Let's talk about it. Let's go take a look here. We're going to switch on over to our little iPad mixer here. So we're using in terms of audio chain, we're using the Earthworks SR314. That's the microphone I'm talking into. That is coming into the SQ5 mixer, digital mixer from Allen and Heath. And if we select this channel right here, you can see, for example, we do have a compressor set to the following settings here. So we've got a 2-to-1 ratio. Threshold is set to 10 dB. Makeup gain is 5 dB. Attack is 30 microseconds. Release 520 milliseconds. And we do have it set to soft knee. We can turn off the soft knee, but that's what we've got going there. So fairly mild compression, just a little bit up there on top. Let me go ahead and turn it off just so you can hear the difference. Here's with the compressor off. Testing 1, 2, 3. Checking 1, 2, 3, and then turning it back on. Now the compressor is back on, just so you can hear the difference there. So that's what we're looking at there. On the compressor, in terms of EQ, We definitely have some EQ going. We have a kind of a mid scoop here between 1K and 2K, just about 3 or 4 dB. It's pretty mild. And then I do have another cut at just over 6 kilohertz, and that's to kind of take care of some of the sibilance in my voice, which is pretty searing at times. We do not have any other inserts. We do not have... Oh, the gate is turned on. I didn't even know the gate was turned on. I don't know if you've been hearing that or not. Have you noticed it, Emma? No? Okay. So the gate's turned on. It's fairly mild. We're only cutting 8 dB when it engages. But here's with the gate on. That's what it sounds like, if you can hear that. So when I start talking now and I stop talking. Okay, so you can definitely hear that. Okay. Turning it off now. Here's with the gate off. We've definitely got some fans and other things going in the room here, so you're hearing that for sure, and stuff outside of the room. All right, so that's the, we do have a high-pass filter turned on too. It's right around 50 hertz. And the preamp, we're pushing about 44 dB of gain there. And then on the, let's see, let's come to the output here. We do have a delay on the output of 133 milliseconds to get things back in sync with the camera, because the camera takes a little longer for the signal to get over to the switcher. And so the audio, oh yeah, by the way, the signal chain continuing on goes from the SQ5 mixer directly into the ATEM, what is that thing called? It's called the ATEM 2ME Production Studio 4K switcher, I think, or something like it. And as Mark Randall said last night, Blackmagic has a way of just adding more words to their product names, and so it gets really confusing after a while. But that's the overall signal chain. Then it continues on, I guess. At that point, the audio is actually digitized in the switcher, and then that comes out as part of the HDMI feed at the end of the signal chain, along with the camera, into the hardware encoder, which is a Tascam VSR265, I think it's called. And that is sending the RTMP stream over to YouTube. That's how we have things configured. All right. Do I have everything set? Okay, I think we're good there. I turned off the gate for now. All right. Any other questions? We do. Do you still use Rodecaster Pro? Yes. In fact, I used that earlier this week. I will be honest, I have so much gear here. I don't get to use it all the time, but I used it certainly to answer a question recently, 2 questions this last week. I think I pulled it out a couple of times, but I end up pulling that one out quite a lot. And then when I do record a podcast, sometimes I will use the Rodecaster. I haven't done a podcast in a while. I need to do another podcast. So, but yes, still get some use. Thanks for the question. What is your preferred way to power the MixPre 6.2? V-mount, NPF? It depends on what I'm doing. So if weight is not a consideration, then yeah, just using a V-mount or an Enchenbauer gold mount battery with a cable into the, we're talking about the MixPre 6.2. Yeah, usually with the MixPre 6.2, I'm using NPF style batteries, so Sony L series batteries, and I've got that sled. I don't have it on me today. I've actually lent out my MixPre to Clark Jackman, who was on the show quite some time, I guess about a year ago almost now. He actually does mostly post sound, but he had some project he was doing, so he needed a MixPre, so he's got the MixPre right now, the 10T. And those I typically power with external batteries like a V-mount or a gold mount battery in a bag. And then when I'm, like here, for example, today, if we switch back over to this overhead cam, you'll see here, oh, maybe you won't see here. Let's pull it in. You can see here, I've got this battery, and that's coming into the Hiroshi input on the bottom here. So that's pretty common for when I'm doing it here. I have had issues where the MixPre 10.2 and I think the MixPre 3, did it come with one as well? Yeah, I think it came with one as well. But I have had problems with ground loops when connecting the included power supply AC adapter with the MixPre when I've got a lot of stuff interconnected. So for the live streams, I'll typically battery with just a big battery for the mix pre. So, okay. The recording nature sound, let's see. Tips recording nature sounds like rain and ocean. Good question, Sheila. We actually did record a good bit of Foley and sound effects this week and last week too, or the week before that. Gosh, where to start with tips? Use a great microphone. I like to use a shotgun microphone typically. I like the directionality so I can sort of isolate the sound that I'm trying to capture and kind of minimize the sounds that I'm not trying to capture. So that's the first thing. Using a good quality recorder that you know how to operate. That's really kind of one of the things that we focus on as well. What are some other tips you learned?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
You were recording. You recorded some Foley.
I recorded pen clicks.
Pen clicks?
Yeah.
Any tips?
No.
Well,
watch your video while you're doing.
Oh yeah. So if you're doing Foley, that's different. But she's doing nature sounds here.
I don't know. I've not done that.
Yeah, I think get plenty of takes. Give yourself some options. So the nice thing, like for example, the ocean and the waves rolling in. If you're going to use that later on as a sound effect, or to kind of cut it in with something else with the other picture, then you're going to want to have plenty of options to choose from in terms of the sound of the waves, because you want to be able to match up the visuals with the audio. So I would definitely focus on getting plenty of different takes and get something that you'll be able to use later on. So if anyone else has got tips, gain up. You don't need your gain. You don't need your meters pegged against minus 12 the whole time necessarily. Leave yourself enough headroom, at least 12 dB of headroom. So I would say for like things like rain, I don't have any issues letting that kind of peak out in the minus 24, maybe even minus 30 range. Some people, and I think perspective, perspective is an important thing as well when you're recording sound effects, is if you want something that's recorded close sounds very different from something that's recorded farther away. So get different perspectives as well if you can. So get your mic close and get your mic farther away so you have those options as well. All right, cool, we're good? All right, we're at the time. Oh, we're over time. Well, thanks everybody for joining us for our Sound for Video session this week. I hope you have a good week. Get out there and make some great sound, and we'll talk to you again next week. Take care, everybody.